Hi everyone. If you listen to our media, of which I have to unfortunately, they will tell you that we are under attack every day. They will tell you that we are under cyber attack and hybrid warfare from various state actors such as Russia and China and non-state actors within those countries, and of course ISIS and Al-Qaeda, etc. Now, I hope that our national security state will defend against these things. However, this is not the thing that I'm worried about. I'm not really that worried about cyber warfare and attacks from abroad. What really worries me, what really keeps me awake at night, is the overreach that our national security state has. Now, if you combine this with the lack of oversight it has, both sides of the Atlantic, in the UK and in the US and Australia and New Zealand as well, we'll get into that in a minute. It basically, what it means is the national security state can pretty much dictate what the foreign policy of these countries is to the government. Now, obviously, that's a massive problem because the government, therefore, is not in control of our armed forces. That's bad enough. I mean, if you look at how things have played out in Russia, in Syria and in Iran at the moment, especially Syria. I mean, we bombed that country and nobody had a vote on that, did they? So if you consider how it's being used, that's really, really serious. But then if you consider how they are now using various operations on their own people to spread disinformation among them, I think you can basically say that the way this spying is being used now on individuals such as activists and journalists, we really are moving into Orwellian territory. Now, one such activist who's well known, who claims that she was targeted by the national security state in her own country for her activism, is my friend Susie Dawson. Now, members of my channel will know that she's a great activist and she launched the Unity 4J movement. So the activism she's continuing from her exile in Russia. Yeah, she's left with New Zealand because the harassment that she said that she got from the national security state over there. She's now exiled in Russia and she's doing her activism from there. Like I say, she was a major driving force behind the Unity 4J movement. Free Julian Assange. And now she's moved on to the next phase of her activism, and this is a big one because she has launched the One versus Five Eye campaign against the Five Eyes, which you're going to find all about very soon. And also, if she can raise enough money, she's going to take them to court. And here to talk to me today about this is the One versus Five Eye spokesperson, Taylor Hudak. Hi Taylor, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Now, Taylor, what is One versus Five Eye? Why has Susie Dawson launched it? What is your role in it? And why should we all get behind it? There you go. There's about 4 questions for you to chew over.
So the One versus Five Eye campaign is all about one woman, journalist and activist Susie Dawson, taking on the Five Eyes. Now, the Five Eyes is an interconnected network of intelligence agencies from 5 Western nations. That includes the US, the UK, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, which is Susie's country of origin. And there are many reasons why we should all care, but I do want to point out that within the past 20 years, the surveillance and illegal spying of citizens has increased dramatically. And of course, we know that the media is not going to hold these agencies accountable, and they're in fact compromised and have been infiltrated by members of these agencies. So it is really on us to be doing our part. Now, in addition to that, I also want to make note that it is an absolute fallacy to believe that only journalists and activists are being targeted. It was revealed by the State Services Commission that they are even targeting, or State Services Commission report, that they are even targeting historic state child abuse claimants, as well as earthquake insurance claimants. So it's definitely everybody that's being targeted here.
So the people who are saying stuff like, well, if we've done nothing wrong, then we've got nothing to worry about, then they're wrong, aren't they? They have got something to worry about.
Sure, because the premise of that argument assumes that you are not going to be negatively impacted if you're doing everything right and you're following the laws. That's certainly not the case, and we see that with Susie's case.
Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about the Five Eyes. You say there it was the UK, the US, Is it Germany or France? Was it Germany or France, New Zealand, and Australia,
It's
wasn't it?
the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand.
Canada, sorry, I don't know why I thought it was France for some reason. Now, the reason they're called the Five Eyes, they are the people who are collecting information that is going across the internet, isn't it? That's basically what the Five Eyes do. And they've got this sharing agreement where they can share the data between them. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I also want to note that the countries that are a part of the Five Eyes, their citizens pay tremendously for this, and it very much negatively impacts them.
In what ways?
Um, Economically, financially, as far as their human rights. And also, another point to make about this is that there it's very dangerous to take the United States foreign policy interests, like another country, to take that into consideration. The people who are in these countries pay dearly for this. And basically, they play these countries like baseball cards, if that makes sense. They collect these countries like baseball cards, and they use a mixture of coercion and threats to sort of like integrate these countries into the United States global network.
Well, that's extremely worrying. You say that they're targeting activists, and they're targeting normal people. Now Susie Dawson, who's launched this campaign, she's launched it because she was targeted in her home state in New Zealand. Can you talk a little bit about how she was targeted and why, and how it affected her?
Yeah, so this goes back to her activism and journalism. Of course, as we all know, she is a journalist and an activist and has been doing great work since 2011. And in 2011, she was a key member of the Occupy Auckland and Occupy New Zealand movements. And we know that Occupy Wall Street was a worldwide movement that was targeted by the FBI and by the DHS at the direction of the White House, in fact.
Uh-huh.
And in 2013, Susie was the number one influencer of the GCSB movement. This was a movement that was against surveillance and the unlawful spying on New Zealand citizens by New Zealand's NSA. And at that time, Susie also co-founded a very popular hashtag TPPA No Way, which was a movement against the TPP. And this was trending worldwide. And then in 2014, much of her work was being shared by WikiLeaks. And she was also promoting Kim.com's Internet Party of New Zealand campaign, as well as a Moment of Truth event, which featured many prominent individuals, including Kim.com, Glenn Greenwald, Julian Assange, and Edward Snowden. By 2015, that's when the targeting started to become very severe.
So when she started getting involved with people like Julian Assange and Glenn Greenwald and having contacts with them, all of a sudden things were ramped up on her.